Good evening. It is Thursday, the 22nd of June, 2023. It's one day after the solstice. The nights are getting shorter already. However, we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about the 45-day show, episode 4. I have two very special guests tonight. First of all, I have Acerone, who we've sort of connected a little bit on Twitch, catching each other's sets, and then we saw each other for about a minute at the DJ Coco gig in Bristol. But I love his artwork, and so we're going to talk music, we're going to talk about graffiti, and then we've got Chrome coming up in about 45 minutes. So without further ado, we have Acerone.
Hello.
How you doing, mate? All right?
Very well, man. How's things?
Yeah, things are good. Lots of cool stuff happening, which is good, and it's great doing these shows because it's almost like a phone call with a mate that you don't really get to do very often.
Sure.
And it's great having like guests on who I haven't spoken to before, but also guests who I've had on before. Like we had Double P on earlier this week, and I think he's been on loads because of the mental health and all of that. Wow. But I always like to find out about guests' origin stories in terms of music. But with you, I'm also interested about graffiti as well. So in terms of music, when did you first become aware of music, and who introduced you to it? Was it like siblings, parents, friends?
Yeah, well, it's great. It's actually, yeah, it's nice to be able to chat about music a bit because, like, in my life, you know, they're both massive things, both art and music, you know.
Yeah.
And I always get interviewed about the art side of things, so it's great to have a question about music because, you know, there's a massive part, you know, of my life is music as well, you know. So really, like, what was playing in my house, really, my mum, we didn't have loads of money growing up, so my mum had just a few LPs, The Police, the Beatles, White Album.
Yeah.
You know, David Bowie was another one. So there was like
wow.
the three on repeat, you know. So I had good schooling from my mum. My dad, not so much. It was more Elton John, Phil Collins, and fucking Level 42. So not quite.
Okay.
Not really. But so
your mum's side sounds better, yeah.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. She was also into the glam rock as well. So, but we won't get into that. That's
right.
Yeah. Anyway, so for me, it was really just the radio, you know. Growing up in the 80s, it was listening to the radio, the chart show, you know, recording the few tunes that I like. I mean, I kind of liked everything when I was young, you know. But it wasn't really until, I don't know, the late 80s, really, when I started really defining different things that I could hear in the charts, you know, like Yaz with The Only Way Is Up and you know, like CC Music Factory. And so instead, you know, I was hearing the early bits of house, you know, the commercial side of house, you know, and I was always really feeling that, you know. So it wasn't too long before, I mean, this is a great, if you don't mind me telling this little story, it's great.
No, go for it.
Where I live, it was sort of in Bristol, a place called Hallfield. And my grandparents a bit further down the road, and Ashdown Road, and overlooked kind of the sort of east side of the city. So they're right on top of Astley Hill. So you've got sort of St. Paul's and Easton down at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
Granddad used to have this massive radio, you know, like, you know, with a great big dial. Well, maybe it was just because I was so small, I remember it as being massive. But it had a huge, great big dial on it, and this massive thing. So you could tune in through FM really, really well. And he had these massive headphones. So I used to sit there and put these headphones on and try and find the chart show. But of course, I could tune into different things on this thing. You know, the dial was so long, you could really pick out the frequencies along the way, you know. So I started finding music that I'd never heard before, you know, and language and conversation that sounded in a completely different language to me. And of course, I was picking up pirate radio stations. So the early pirate radio stations like Black FM and FTP, and some of the sort of late 80s ones. And of course, I was hearing kind of, you know, patois from St. Paul's. You know, I was hearing reggae music. I'm hearing stuff that you just didn't hear on Radio 1 or like GWR, you know.
Yeah, but that's Bristol, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that was the first bit for me going, oh my God, I found something that's like, that I need to find out more. But of course, I was young, I didn't know. So my granddad's house became this haven of, like, you know, I used to go over and stick the headphones on and try and see what I could find, you know. It was so I guess that was my real the first bug that I got for music. You know?
That's amazing. And what a way as well. I mean, I say Bristol because I went to uni in Bristol, and I love Bristol, and we met each other very briefly at the Coco gig in Bristol. But I think it has got this amazing multicultural music life there. You know, there's so much great music that's come out of Bristol.
Yeah, completely. I mean, just over the road from my grandparents' house was the youth centre I used to go to, Sefton Park Youth Club, and Ronnie Size and his brother were youth workers there. So, and the basement studio was based there. So a lot of the stuff that Ronnie Size was producing, the early stuff, was made in that area, you know. So yeah, I mean, Massive Attack. Those guys lived at the bottom of my street, down by St Andrews Park. So I used to hear literally before Blue Lines even came out, we were hearing that stuff coming out of the sound systems.
Wow.
So
they were testing it. Do you think they were testing it?
I mean, I remember those tunes before it was even a big thing, you know. So yeah, I mean, you know, that Bristol sound is still woven kind of, you know, through my kind of entire life, really, you know. So for me, after that, it was picking up on literally trying to find out what this music was, and it wasn't too long before kind of 91, 92, I found the kind of early rave music, and that was it. I was obsessed. Going skateboarding every Saturday morning, you know, going to all the record shops, picking up the flyers, you know, just learning all the names, you know.
We were talking about the raving the other day as well. So I'm assuming these are sort of all illegal raves at the time.
Well, actually, around that time, it was just coming out of that era of, like, you know, the criminal justice bill, I think, was sort of
just came in,
So everything sort of got a bit more commercialized after that, maybe sort of 92, 93. And then it was, I mean, it was really the end of 93 when I started sneaking out, you know, going and staying over in my mate's house, you know, and sneaking out and actually getting out to those parties myself, sort of 14 years old, you know.
Yeah.
Go to gigs at Trinity or the Depot or Eastern Community Centre, Malcolm X Centre, those sort of places, you know, and just immersing myself in what was really the very early bits of jungle, you know.
Yeah.
That was me, the end of 93, you know, when that kind of ragga sound started coming through into rave and it started turning into jungle, you know, that was me. That was my, you know, my childhood, and kind of still is, to be honest.
Yeah, because you're still I don't know, I'm sure you play loads of other stuff, but I think of you as a drum and bass DJ just because the only couple of sets I've caught of yours are drum and bass.
Jungle.
Yeah, jungle. Yeah, I know.
So for me, because I'm really, I mean, that's really where I tick, is that kind of 93, 94, 95. Before it got into kind of drum and bass as a thing, you know, it was this kind of a bit more innocent, a bit more kind of reggae led, you know. And that for me was just much more fun than, I know. But by the time it got to kind of 97 or what have you, I was kind of bored by then. Which is actually when I found hip hop. And then once I found hip hop, you know, the first thing I saw DJ Noise down at the Thekla. My crew, my graffiti crew. Yeah. So by that time, by kind of 97, I started painting. 94, 95, 96, I started painting. And by 97, I was down with the crew, Fantastic Superheroes, and we used to put on FSH crew. We used to put on nights down at the Thekla. And
Thekla, such an amazing.
Yeah. And one of the most famous nights is the end of 1997, DJ Noise and Supernatural, and I'd never seen anything like it. You know, I was a pretty much a hardcore raver junglist up until that point, and everything changed for me on that night. You know, to see DJ, I was DJing by then, so to see DJ Noise do what he did, it completely blew my mind, and I was kind of bored of beat matching, and I wanted to do that.
Amazing. Chrome Plus, who's coming up in a bit, has got a question. Is Acer going to We Out Here Festival for 30 years of DMB celebrations? And as you answer that, hi to Danny Bounce and also to DJ Yenny. Thank you for that follow.
Yes.
So yes, are you going there for the?
Yeah. So Chrome, if you could get me in, I'll go. I haven't. No, at this moment I'm not. But if there's a way in, then maybe we can. Maybe that'll change.
Yeah, we need to approach these festivals with something, you know, like a combination of graffiti and music and vinyl and DJing. And then once we've got a product, we can say, right, let's have a takeover for a night.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And I've been sort of throwing that idea around for a little while. So maybe we'll continue that conversation, Criztoz. I like that.
Yeah. No, I mean it's building something, because at the end of the day, you know, we're of a certain age or from a certain generation. And obviously there's a lot of younger DJs coming through. So obviously for us to get into these really cool festivals that we want to be at, we need to offer them something different, something unique. And it's just a case of building that and then going, there you go, and then see what happens. But
yeah, I like that as an idea.
Danny Bounce says Noise and Supernat were amazing together.
Dream team. You know, they really were incredible, man. That night, honestly, I've got a recording of it somewhere. I'll send it to you. It's bloody incredible still to this day, 1997, and it is ahead of its time still, you know.
Yeah. Good evening to Dinks Records as well, who has been putting out some amazing records. at the moment, including one from my guest who's coming up in a bit, Chrome. So yeah, but yes, lots of cool stuff. So how does it carry on from there in terms of becoming a DJ? Obviously, you're hearing all this music, you're going to all these sound systems. You know, when's there come a point where you think, you know what, I want to DJ?
Well, it's funny actually you asked that, because like in my head I was a DJ way before I even had turntables. I mean, I spent a considerable amount of my time in my school playground with the 2 or 3 other kids that were into rave. You know, I had a friend of mine that I went to school with who was an MC. We were literally 14, and he would go and black the mic and, you know, take over. You know, it was amazing what we were up to back then. But we used to argue about like how to mix, and we had no idea. We had absolutely no idea, you know. And that's how I came up with the name Acer. Actually, it was I wanted to be DJ Ace. We saw all of those names on the back of the flyers, and we wanted to have our own names and stuff, you know. So even before I, you know, owned a record, I was DJ Ace. And then not long after that, it was literally about trying to scrimp and save, man. I mean, I didn't grow up with loads and loads of cash in the house. There was no way that was going to happen. So I literally got my mum's stack system. You remember the big, like, I think it might have been like Alba, not even Iowa. You know what I mean? Like a rip-off stack system, and it had an integrated turntable at the top. So I had stack system with the turntable, which did actually have a couple of phono outs at the back. So I managed to then find a made to fade mixer. Remember made to fade? It was just awful, man. You know, really. Just 2-channel thing, and then a cam belt drive that I'd sort of begged and borrowed and stole off of somebody, I think. Yeah, so that was my first setup. So I was literally like, you know, that thing of pushing that belt drive, and I couldn't even change the pitch control on my mum's thing. So it was, you know, you could only mix one way, sort of thing. So
you know what's crazy is obviously a lot of DJs come on and pretty much all of them have started. I started a little bit later in life, so I didn't do the sort of that. But obviously they've all started and learned using a really more basic deck.
Yeah.
And obviously generations now, starting now, are probably never going to really experience that.
For sure.
They're only ever going to know what we know, you know, techniques and all this other stuff. So in a weird way, do you think that makes for a better DJ?
I totally trust anybody that started the way we did, man. You know, on belt drive turntables. If you started on belt drive turntables, I trust you as a DJ. I know, you know, I know you're going to pull off a good mix, you know. But it's a funny thing, because I end up having this conversation quite a lot with people that kind of more innocent days, like, and usually it's kind of pre-internet, you know, where there just wasn't access to all of that information on you know, the touch of a button, or connecting with people so easily. You can, I mean, especially in the graffiti side of things, well before, you know, I started well before the internet was around, or maybe people had mobile phones. So it really was a case of being let into a scene. You know what I mean? You had to kind of almost prove yourself and then become part of it. It was there was like initiations. You know, it truly was a completely closed scene. And I mean, even DJing a bit was a little bit like that back then. You know, well, you couldn't just necessarily rock up. You know, I still remember, like, you know, coloring in the labels on the thing so people didn't know what the record was and stuff. You know, all of that was still kind of part of growing up. And so yeah, I kind of do think those more innocent days when it was when everything wasn't on tap, and, you know, everything wasn't already, you know, because the scene was still growing, right? It was still finding its way. So. Yeah, I actually feel really privileged, actually, to have been around in those times and know what it's like to actually have to use paint which wasn't made for graffiti. You know, use car paint and try and find the correct nozzles, or go and nick nozzles off of, like, you know, oven cleaner or something. You know, just now you can paint any width of line you want. You know, you just buy the nozzle. You know, once upon a time you just didn't have that stuff. You know.
Yeah, we went to so obviously I saw you at the Coco gig.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was down there with my daughter. Yeah, I was wicked. We will talk about it. I was there with my daughter and my wife, and we went a little walk around Bristol and seeing the graffiti. And we came across a graffiti shop opposite. Oh, I don't know where it is. It's quite central, really in the central. Yeah, right. Yeah. And I'd seen this thing. I don't know whose Instagram it was, but I'd seen this thing, and I was thinking, oh, we should get these, and then me and my daughter. So I saw them in the corner. So hold on, I'm going to get it. It is these, where basically it's like a plastic New York subway car, and obviously you then graffiti onto it.
Sure.
So we got like one each. So me and my daughter are going to do that. But it was cool going into a shop and seeing all this stuff that you can start with.
Yeah, right.
Obviously, what you were saying is like when you were younger, you had to really struggle to sort of find
Well,
the
anything.
means to do stuff.
I mean, literally, I kid you not. The graffiti side of things, when I started, the sort of end mid 90s, so like 95, there was literally nothing. There was
Yeah.
no source of inspiration. Like there was a few pages in the back of HHC, Hip Hop Connection magazine. That was literally it. You could sometimes find a magazine that Kilo used to put out from who was up in London at the time called Graphitism, and that the first few issues of that were kind of, I think, maybe 92, 93. So a few of those were like floating around, but I mean, there was a couple of videos, you know, like Wild Style and you know, Star Wars and you know that had graph in them. There was a few that had Bristol. There was one a film called Bombing, which was around Brim and Bio coming over from New York and hooking up with Goldie, and a bit of it was filmed in Bristol. And that was aired on TV in the UK, I think, in 95 or 96, and a few people, sorry, 85 or 86, sorry.
Wow.
So a few people had that on VHS, but you had to go and find these people. Do you know what I mean? You had to go and find somebody who was nerdy enough to actually have this stuff, you know? So it was like a quest, I guess, you know, back then, to just find anything. But I guess for me, my thing was always trying to hook up with other writers. So, you know, that was a way of like getting an insight into, you know, and that for me was actually how I sort of gained skills quickly. It was literally to link up with people and just learn from other people, you know?
And it's part of being a community, though, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
And having a bit of a mentorship, and also as an artist, you want to bring other artists through as well. I was talking to Jim Sharp on a show a little while ago, and we were talking about Arlo. Do you know DJ Arlo, Sunday Get Down? Yeah. And he was saying that he sends him records because Arlo like studies his craft and he's doing DJing, and you've got to feed the youth and you've got to feed the artists coming up, and give them the ability to do what's possible. So it's great again because you're talking about exactly that. You wanted to hook up with other people who were doing what you're doing to give you help, advice, build friendships.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, you know, back then it was a way in. It was a way of learning really quickly. I mean, I kid you not, the first couple of pieces I painted, I had no idea why using a can of yellow car paint, which was really watery, and I'd go and the first piece I tried to paint was on the side of Hallfield Prison, which is just raw red brick, right? There's a lane down the side, raw red brick. I had no idea why piss water yellow spray paint wasn't like taking to the wall, you know. I mean, just don't know this stuff, you know. So it wasn't until you hook up with other people that it's like, well, if you're going to paint a wall like that, it needs a coat of emulsion, or if you need, you know, those kind of things that you just don't know as a kid, you know. So yeah, for me, it was always about like linking with other people, and for me, I guess that was, I got better really quickly from just being around other people and learning, you know.
Yeah, it is amazing, and because we built it's a bit like what we do, you know. We build the community, people come in, they see what we're doing, they see what we're playing, they see what records we're doing, and they learn from that and they build, and it inspires them to go off and do that. And this is what I really love Twitch, because constantly meeting new DJs, catching a set here, a set there, and that's how we sort of connected. I think the first time, I think you were on one of the raid trains, maybe DJ Fade, was it?
Yeah, Fade,
Yeah, Faye's great. I've met him. He was at the Coco gig, and then met him before. And yeah, he's great, and he organizes really cool events and stuff. But yeah, so then I saw you do that set, and then we got sort of at Coco. I was literally talking to
maybe, or
guy from A Productions.
Oh yeah, the Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, Mr. Fantastic. And I was chatting to him, and then you walked past. You said bye to him, and then I was like, "Oh, I recognise that. Who's that?" And it was like Acer. And I was like, "Oh yeah." And I ran over, gave you a sticker, and I was like, "Yes."
Right.
And it was great to sort of connect in that way. But as we're talking about the Coco gig, how did you become aware of it, and why were you there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got to be honest with you, like, that kind of thing, that's my shit anyway, you know. These days, you know, that, like, yeah, I mean, that day blew my mind. It was great. The reason and I'll say the reason why is because it just, to me, feels like a massive evolution in real DJing, you know. To see Mr. Thing almost doing like the routine that he used to do on 12 inches on you know, for DMC, being able to pull off that level of, you know, mastery on sevens to me is like, you know, I'm so fucking clumsy. I just can't, you know, it blows my mind, you know. In Coco, I mean, ooh, but, so why was I there? Actually, I think it was Sam Tweaks that told me about it. He was like, you know,
Right.
I'm in Bristol. He often gives me a
Yep.
shout. In fact, yeah, me and Sam used to DJ together a bit before he blew up on Twitch. Yeah.
Well, okay, a couple of things. I got my mate Joe Law to come up, and he's a DJ, and I'd said to him from that, he lives here as well. And he came away thinking, wow, that was amazing. You know, thanks for the heads up. But it was just that, wasn't it? It was one of those, you had to be there because it was, what he was doing was ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's for me, he just like pick up a record there, put it down, needle on, chop. And you're like, what? So how have you worked out to put the needle exactly the right place on the record?
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff on there that almost is impossible, but yeah, he was doing it in front of our eyes. So yeah, I mean,
yeah.
And he didn't drop it. He didn't drop it once either. I didn't see him make one fuck up. Not once. I mean, how to do that?
Yeah. Well, he was telling Lady Melzer, Demelza. Do you know Demelza?
Yeah.
And she gave him, I think they give him a lift back to the hotel, and he was telling her that he practiced 8 hours a day, and he's only been doing 45s for like 13 years, and that we're just like, wow, you know, that is insane. But then again, you know, if I for 13 years did it 8 hours a day, I still wouldn't be what he is.
I don't know. I mean, that is a lot of hours.
Yeah.
Good on him. Yeah.
But it's dedication though, isn't it? You know, and I think that's what makes it, he's one of a kind.
Yeah, without doubt.
And as a DJ, you know, you want to be remembered for something. You know, it might not be your skills, it might not be your record, you know, whatever it is, you know, you vibe for just playing. That's what you want to ultimately achieve, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really weird thing. I guess, I mean, I never pushed the DJ side of things. You know, for me, it was always just fun playing at mates' parties, and you know, just because I only ever bought records on you know, I only ever bought vinyl. I never bothered buying CDs. I never bothered with, you know, and I've always stuck to vinyl. And it's kind of mad, isn't it? But I never wanted to move on, and I kind of never did. And it's gone on so long, I've sort of come back into fashion now. There's a message there, kids. Don't try too hard. Like, stay where you are.
Yeah.
Like, 20 years time, you're going to be dope. Everyone's going to love it.
It is a weird one, though, isn't it? But it's because vinyl is such a good format. It's tactile, and you have to manipulate it, and you have to do it. Yes, you can do that with sort of CDJs and controllers, but it's just not quite the same.
Well, for me, there's another massive thing, and it's the record collecting. You know, there's a massive part. There's a joy in finding that actual piece of wax that you've been after for so long that you thought you were never going to get your hands on. And you know, just all that, and then sometimes those weird things where they come out of the blue. Somebody might just donate you a couple of tunes, and they're the best. You know, just things like that are like you just can't get that with a digital format. You know, so
we did this thing up in there. We did a 2-night event in Edinburgh last year, end of July, with Scotty Boy, who organised it. We had DJs from Gloucester and Stoke, and you know, a few other places in Glasgow, and we did this thing which I came up with, which was Secret 45. So a bit like you do Secret Santa at Christmas. Each DJ that was taking part brought a 45, like you know, up to 10 quid or whatever. And then we just swapped them around. And it was really cool, thinking, oh, this is cool. You know, it's a piece of wax that I've got now. I know exactly where I got that. Rather than like a download.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I love that as an idea. It's great. What did you end up with?
I ended up with something from Mr. Salt, which was a sort of quite fast punky sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have bought it otherwise, right?
No, exactly. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Yes.
And we had a guy, do you know Funky Chef?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, Funky Chef. You need to check Funky Chef out. He's like, Sam Tweaks calls him the Spanish Coco.
Okay, really? Okay.
So completely different style, but really good. But his brother lived in Edinburgh, and Funky Chef sent me a message saying, oh, my brother's in Edinburgh, he's a DJ, doesn't get out to play much. We're like, oh, cool, yeah, he can come along, he played with us. And the 45 he got was a sample, a scratch record that I had put in there, and he's a scratch DJ. So for him, that was like, oh, okay, cool, a 7-inch scratch record, which again he might not have known about otherwise.
Yeah, right. Yeah, nice idea. I like that.
So yeah, so it's a lot of fun.
Actually, and that I just remember at Christmas, I went for a Christmas meal with a load of graffiti artists, and we did exactly the same thing.
Wow.
It was just wrap up a piece of art, like a little thing that you've done or whatever, you know, and we just swapped them around, and yeah, Secret Santa. That was great. It was a good, brilliant.
It's amazing that all these communities have whatever we've got in a different format.
Yeah, sure.
We were talking about on the show the other night about how perhaps is, you know, in the drum and bass community on Twitch, do they do raid trains? Do they do like mental health raid train stuff? Do they have talk shows about mental health? And Becky Safe came in to the chat, who I hadn't known really before, and she was like, yes, we do. We also do podcasts within the drum and bass community, and we also do mental health raid trains. And I was like, wow, you know, how far does this go? You know, there's lots of different communities all doing pretty much what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there is. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing. Like it happens a lot, but I often end up using music as a way to describe what goes on in graffiti, and I often use graffiti as a way to describe what goes on in music. You know, they're so interchangeable. The way that you paint, you know, having almost like a band when you paint in it collaboratively with other graffiti artists, you know, sometimes it's somebody's kind of putting down the drum beat, you know, putting the background in that everybody else is then able to kind of chime in, and you know, so you've often got somebody up front who's, you know, bust the big thing, and then you've got each person that's chipping in. It is a composition, you know what I mean? Literally a composition visually, but it's a little bit like putting together a musical composition, you know. Those kind of analogies really work both for music and graffiti art, you know.
And it's about the collaborations as well, isn't it? That's the thing. I think because we're all artists, we like collaborating with other people.
Sure.
And I guess it's the same for you, you know, in both the music and the sort of graph style. So let's talk a little bit about the graph. I saw that you went to Shindig, and you were also did smart work for Shindig. So I haven't been to Shindig for about 6 years. I think we went in 2017, so I haven't been for a while. But yeah, what was the festival like? How did you get involved, and what did you sort of paint?
Yeah, it's great. So I painted a kind of Shindig logo, which had a kind of rainbow 3D thing coming off of it. Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in Shindig for a couple of years, just through a friend of a friend. You know, I just offered. I just said, look, I like the sound of the festival. I want to come along and paint something. And a little bit like what you were saying earlier about like almost having a package that you can sort of give to somebody.
Yeah.
It was just that really. It's like, look, give us a ticket or two, and I'll come along and, you know what I mean, just do something. And so each year I kind of I just pester them really and just say, give me a space, and I'll come along, give us a ticket, and I just come along and do it, you know. But for me, the reason why I think Shindig works so much, and I've got to be completely honest with you, I think it's a slightly older crowd, and I'm just a lot more comfortable around an older crowd these days, to be truthful. I mean, I just love it, you know. There's it just feels like there's a really respectful vibe there, you know. Yeah, I just yeah, it's the perfect size too. It's not too massive, you know. You're not going to be spending like hours getting from one side to the other. It's and there's something else about there being like no real one big main stage. All of the stages are fairly medium sized, so it doesn't pull like, you know, it always just feels like there's a good spread, a good amount of people everywhere, you know. I don't know. For me, it's almost like the perfect festival, and it's only an hour down the road.
Well, that always helps. Yeah. But yeah, so in terms of the artwork, then what did you do? I've seen a couple of bits, but do you want to just tell people what they were?
What the piece of artwork that I did for Shindig?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a stylized letter for it. So it's kind of so I mean, I go through phases with my lettering. I'm the sort of thing I do is quite geometric, quite bold colors, quite almost kind of graphic design graffiti, if you like. You know, in fact, you can sort of see some behind, but this sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, so graphic letters with kind of, you know. So yeah, this time I've gone away from the style a little bit now, and I'm kind of turning into this kind of one line. So I'm trying to write words with one thick black line, and then bring kind of stepped 3Ds off of it and stuff. So I mean, it's quite kind of hard to describe, but it's simplistic but really complex.
Yeah. I mean, I saw it as sort of the lettering, wasn't it, Shindig, and then I think almost like rainbow steps sort of coming down. Yeah, it looked great.
It was a bit psychedelic. I mean, I was kind of going for that really. That it's a bit of a kind of psychedelic. Plus, it's kind of got the rainbow feel in it, which I always kind of like. I mean, the rainbow keeps appearing, and it's a spectrum really. It's a spectrum of color. I just like that kind of going through all of the color. If you do something monotone, black, white, grey, and then put this kind of this spectrum through it, And I mean, I've actually off the back of that, not meaning to, but I've had a few commissions for Pride. Down in Western Supermare. I'm quite connected with the guys down at the Proud Bar down there now. I did a piece for them, and it's it's amazing what people see. I mean, I used to paint these things because it was a spectrum, but it's been embraced by the guys that run Pride down there. I mean, lots of people see lots of different things in it, so it's it's great.
It's also very positive, isn't it? Because things are colourful.
Yeah.
It's trying to. I think we do it obviously with music. When we play music and stream, we want to try and get that joy or our love of that particular thing. And I guess it's the same with you. You want them to get joy out of it. Hence why the spectrum and obviously the rainbow colours and all of that.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it's funny actually. I saw somewhere. I can't remember where I saw it. Probably online somewhere, but. It was somebody kind of almost tongue in cheek making a point, but it kind of resonated with me. But the thing is, like, if you make art that the subject of it is bad, then that is bad art. If you make something which the subject of it is good, then that is good art. And I mean, that's really simplistic and a bit silly.
Yeah.
But I get the point, because then they break it down saying, well, if you make bad art, then what you're actually doing, if you're making art that's actually got content in it which is negative, then somebody's going to look at it and it's going to evoke negative feelings, it's going to evoke negative connotations, and therefore, you know what I mean? Whereas the opposite is completely true as well. Create something, I've been doing a load of pieces that say love with this rainbow stuff through it, and and people are going mad for it. People do really respond well to it. I've had a lot of feedback from people how it's actually I mean, why wouldn't I want to follow that route?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, positivity and joy has got to overwin, because there's so much negativity in the world anyway. It's a case of trying to sort of push out all that negativity with positivity. And I think that's what we try and do through music, through art, through, talking and all the rest of it, is trying to say, right, okay, let's be positive about stuff. And hopefully some of the negativity can try and fall away. Not always, but it sort of helps.
Well, you can help out of balance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was the last piece I painted actually was very similar to the style that I did for the Shindig one. I painted it last week. It says admire, and it was actually a dedication piece for a friend of mine, an MC from Bristol, whose brother passed away the week before. So he rang me and asked me whether I'd do a piece for him, and his Christian name was Admire. So I thought it was a great word to paint, and I've just painted it. And I went to see him today. Actually, I met up with him down by the wall. And it was quite moving, really. Like, his mum had been down to see it, and the photos had done the rounds in the family, and they were all so appreciative of this painting that I'd done. Well, of course, for me, it was a pleasure to do it, and of course he's my boy, so of course I would paint a piece for him, and I enjoyed doing it, and I was going to paint a piece anyway, so why not do something which is positive for somebody else. But I guess it wasn't really until I saw him today in person that I realized that actually, for me, this was a piece, it wasn't really about me. I was able to, in this instance, it's not about Acer, it's not about me showing off particularly. This is about me doing something for somebody else, a kind of an act of love, I guess, for my friends, and in turn, that's gone on to actually affect other people, on a spiritual and emotional level. And and I guess in a way, for me, I suddenly sort of started to realize that for me, that feels like success as an artist.
Definitely.
You can almost keep your exhibitions in the Tate Gallery. You can keep this dream that we keep being sold, that actually success is becoming, financially and getting the status. I think actually, if I can create art which actually affects other people on a deep, on an emotional level in some way, and that I'm giving back, and it's not the art that I create is not necessarily about me and for me. I think that's like a really quite successful place to be,
Definitely. We're just going to pause it there for a second, because I didn't want to interrupt you, because that was amazing. We've had a raid. Big love to DJ Viva. She was a guest last week. They had some sad news about a mod, one of their mods, who unfortunately passed. And yeah, she's been quite an emotional show on there. So much love to DJ Viva. Thank you so much for raiding in. And yes, hello to people. We've got Original Slack, Mike C Music, Snowball, Shoestring, Grey Dog, H-Town Girl, and DJ Function. So yes, welcome in. Thank you. We're talking, this is the 45-day show. The moment we're talking to Acerone. We've been talking about his music, artwork. But the thing I also saw the other day on your Instagram was a little video clip from the BBC, so British Broadcasting Community, and you were talking about some workshops you've been doing with children for graffiti. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can, but just 1 second. There's 2 magpies just attacking my cat a minute. Just give me a second. I kid you not.
Go save your cat.
Oi, shoot.
Well, you definitely know that this show is live.
Sorry about that. Those bastard magpies, honestly, they're having. I've got a new cat. He's only arrived in the family really recently, and he sits up on top of the wall, and 2 magpies. I kid you not. They fly down, swoop down, and peck him, and he doesn't do anything about it. So anyway, sorry, I've just saved him.
Okay, your cat's all right though. Your cat's all right, yeah.
Cat's fine, yeah.
Cool. Okay, no worries. I did say to you before the show that if there was something going on, drop it in the private chat. I wasn't expecting it, but
look, I didn't really. Yeah, anyway, no, the cat's fine. That's the main thing.
That's the main thing. It's brilliant.
It's BBC.
It made us laugh. Right. So the workshops you were doing with kids for graffiti, and you were on the BBC. So yeah, first of all, tell us about the workshops, and then tell us about being interviewed by the BBC.
Sure, yeah. So the workshops came around through Upfest in Bristol. So people might know about Upfest in Bristol, who coordinate lots of murals, and they do a bit of a festival in Bristol most years.
Yeah.
This year they've taken the festival to Weston-super-Mare. There's a big calling actually. It's becoming a bit of a centre for creativity at the moment, Weston-super-Mare. So they had, I think, either 20 or 25 big murals going up there. I think it was sort of this time last month. And as part of that, there was an engagement program which was about getting young people involved and, giving the opportunity for local kids to get involved and take part, and do a bit themselves. So I actually spent a couple of weeks at a youth centre in Bourneville in Weston-super-Mare. It's quite a tough council estate, and created a load of artwork with the kids there. And actually, I'm about to paint a mural. That project comes to a close next week. Actually, I'm going to paint a big mural of something that I worked on those kids with. And then there were some other workshops that were running in half term, and I think I worked with 120 kids over the space of about 3 days, I think. So it was like 1 hour workshops, loads of kids, all in like 10 at a time, and about 4 or 5 workshops a day. And it's
wow.
Hard
work, but
yeah, it was.
I bet they loved it though.
They absolutely loved it. And actually, what was really fun was most of the parents got stuck in and got involved as well. So that was it was good. It was really hard work. It was I was shattered at the end of each day, but yeah, it was good. It was good few days. Loads of work got created. Yeah.
They are great fun. Those. Me and my daughter Zizi, we went to DJ with Chrome's daughter, Evie Wonder, in Great Yarmouth, I think. And on the way we stopped off at I can't remember, Colchester, I think, maybe, or something. And they had like a museum, so we went and had a look at a museum, and then they had like a kids workshop, and it was this guy called Studio Corp, and he was using these sort of pens, the sort of paint pens, to make like drawings. He'd like done some doodles, and then the kids so that was a real lot of fun. But we ended up doing, I don't know where it is, my daughter's going, where is it? We ended up doing this sort of big cardboard about that big, of like a big like cat face, a sort of cartoon cat face. But it was so much fun, and again, doing that adult and child working together on something was really cool. The kids workshop must get a lot of that buzz as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a similar thing actually. I mean, what I got the kids to do was would first spray a background, so have a little panel, they'd spray the background and come back inside. I'll teach them how to basically take their own little signature and enlarge it really into a kind of bubble lettering thing, so that they've got like a graffiti kind of tag style based on their own handwriting. And then go and bring the boards back in and use exactly those paint markers to kind of draw those pieces back on, So that was great. And and you're right. And the BBC came along to film and interview me. Yeah, and actually that was 2 days after Shindig. That was, so. Yeah, I think I did all right.
But they're really great. We've got Chrome as well, so I think you guys sort of know of each other, but I don't know if you've met. But let's see if we can hear.
Hi.
How's it going, mate?
Yeah, good. How you doing?
Very well.
Good.
Cool. So have you guys met before or not?
Bristol?
Yeah, I think I did meet you in Bristol once, didn't I?
Yeah, hip rope a dope maybe.
Yes,
Yeah,
I believe so. Outside, quite a hazy memory of being outside.
it's highly likely. Yeah.
Is that the rope?
Yeah.
Is that the rope a dope Simon does?
Exactly. Yeah.
Was it the one that you were playing on the Saturday and I was on the Friday? And I think we missed.
I think. I think it was an older one though that I met you. Is that right?
Quite possibly. I mean, I used to go down to all of those ones. I'm good friends with Simon.
Yeah.
Specifically, in fact, I was at university in Exeter, and he was in Sidmouth at the time.
Okay.
I never hung around with any of my uni crew. It was always the hip hop kids. There was a good little scene down in Exeter in the kind of back around 2000. So that's how I hit him and Project C and all those guys. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. They were killing it down there. The Exeter scene was yeah.
Yeah, and it's a shame. It's a real shame that the Rope Walk pub's kind of not with Annie anymore, because that was such a great.
Yeah. So is she taking on a new pub down in Bristol at all, or is that a thing?
No, I think that she had enough. I think it was just she served the time, and she'd done. I mean, it was a brilliant. Criztoz and I were talking a bit before about kind of hooking up and that kind of importance of meeting in person and just and how, like, I mean, my thing, hip hop in the late 90s, there was just seemed to be things going on all the time that brought people together, and Rope a Dope had definitely had that kind of feel, so it's and the Rope Walk in general actually was a great little place that you could drop in, and you would usually see something that you knew in there,
I mean, I went 3 occasions, and each time it was just like, this is amazing, the kind of meeting of everyone from not just Bristol and obviously quite a few decent heads from Bristol, but from people far and wide, and coming to meet. It was just a lovely thing. And hopefully if Simon is going to listen to this, maybe he'll look at doing it again somewhere. Yeah, I'm
sure he's always got his finger in a few pies. He's always got something up his sleeve. So
Loads of really cool support acts, though, isn't he? To all the cool stuff coming through.
Simon's killing it at the minute. I mean, you know about his Black Gold DJing and stuff, right?
It's more rock music side of things.
Supporting is it Limp Bizkit?
No. I think I got told not to talk about this, so I'm going to say nothing.
Okay. He's killing it at the minute. He's killing it. Big up Specific.
Big up Specific. And Project C.
Absolutely, yeah. Big up Abs.
It was great. And again, it's amazing the power that music has to bring people together. You say to people, right, something's going on here, and then you just see who can get there. And it's again just bringing people together. It's brilliant. Right, Acer, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being a guest. I will speak to you soon, and we'll definitely move forward with some of these ideas. I think there's definitely a lot of potential. We'll speak soon. Take it easy.
All right, cheers, Brian.
Big up, Acer.
Nice one.
So, how you doing, Mike?
Yeah, good. How are you, mate?
Yeah, man, I'm good. There's lots of cool stuff happening, which is great. Lots of cool events, and obviously 45 kids getting involved, and no, it's all going well. But
that's good.
You've got this 45 here. He's brilliant. We've got Dinks. I think Dinks might still be in the chat, but it's brilliant, and you've got it there. So I am going to play a little bit.
Okay. Do I have to like mime along to it whilst I'm playing, or do like a dance or something?
No, you don't need to dance. It's just a case of I'm gonna ask you sort of about the song, obviously how it came about, and then obviously you can tell me so.
Okay.
Sure, I've got it all right. Just need to turn that off.
John Peel moment. It's on 33.
It is on 33. Check this out. So, I mean, that just slaps from the very beginning. You know, when that beat kicks in, it's amazing. And that's the allergies tune of the month. So that must be good to hear that. DJ Ace says tune. Jabons says nice. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about how you went about putting that record together, because obviously you have got other releases where you're emceeing and producing and scratching all the rest of it. This is slightly different. So tell us about this process.
Yeah. I over the last 2 or 3 years, I've been making a few little edits just for personal use, you know, just to sort of like add to my DJ sets. You know, I get like a little dub made up just for myself. And I started messing about with this beat, but mainly actually when I originally sampled it, I was thinking about using it as a vocal track. And then I turned it into an edit of Mobb Deep Shook Ones. So there's a version of this with just Shook Ones over the top, which I might put up on my Bandcamp at some point. But then I started flipping it about and putting some little scratches in and then just thought, do you know what? I might actually send this off to Kev and see what he thinks about it. And he came back saying, "Yeah, I like it. Let's do it. Let's put something out." Cool. So it's like, okay, cool. Let's do it. Yeah, that's wicked. So yeah, big up, Kev. Nice one, boss.
And I think you're saying that it's possibly going to inspire you to do a bit more instrumental stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I just sort of thought, you know, I might actually venture down that road a little bit more, maybe even sort of less on the edit side and more on actual just making some instrumental hip hop. Because I do produce, you know, I've been producing beats for years and years, as well as I rhyme. You know, the whole Chrome and inspired stuff is all produced by me, and my albums that I've put out, you know, that it's all primarily my beats. So I've just never really sort of thought about just doing it as an instrumental thing. But this is making me think, well, maybe I could go down that route a little bit more. Maybe on a DJ Shadow type of thing, but in my own way, I suppose. I don't know. Maybe even get some other featured rappers on it rather than me rapping, you know.
Well, because you're on another new album, aren't you? It's just come out.
I'm on 2. So there's this one, which is the Paul Sitter.
That's the Paul Sitter. Hold on, let me just solo you.
Yeah, which has got there's a lot of decent people on here. So you've got like Craig G. I don't know if you can see all that, whether it's clear enough, but there's like Craig G, Andy Cooper, Robert Smith's on it, Dr. Syntax. Yeah,
I think it's Sam Tweaks on there at the beginning.
Sam Tweaks, yeah, Sam Tweaks does a.
And I think DJ D maybe as well.
Yeah, that's right. They've got like a little bit on the intro. I think they're doing like a sort of voice message or whatever.
Nice.
The intro, quite cool. So I've got a track on that, but then I've also
hold on, just pause there for a sec though.
Sure, yeah.
But I think the voice intros and stuff is a thing that we need to sort of build up, because you've obviously you're getting back into live streaming as well.
Yeah.
And it's great when you've got Arlo like presses the button. It's like someone Dom from the Next Men saying, "Oh, this is Dom from the Next Men. You're listening to DJ Arlo," and you got Sam Tweaks doing stuff. We need to build up those.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I used to run my radio show. You know, I was always making a point of messaging people, and I did feel like I was hassling people sometimes, but it's just kind of like, if you don't ask, you don't get, right? So
wasn't I like the first person to respond to, what was it, the New Year's Eve one or something?
Yes, yeah, you nailed that actually. Yeah, but this is it. It's just kind of like, you're right. I think it's trying to sort of help each other out, right, and help promote each other's shows and so on. And it's a nice little touch when you can drop in a little sample of like, you know.
Well, it's like when we did
you're listening to.
yeah, but we did it for 45 Day. You know, we had the 45 kids and 45 parents doing, you know, happy 45 Day. That was great. So then
I was in Greece at the time, right?
Yeah. But that was great. It was just like capturing that moment that 30 seconds in that kid and parents DJ life. It was brilliant, and we've got that, and we do more of that, and we share that with the world,
Sure.
and spread positivity, like we were talking about a little bit earlier with Acerone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's all about sharing the love, right?
Yeah.
You know, let's just spread it out.
Yeah, and it's great. Again, we were talking with Double P on the show earlier this week. It's great, the fact that we've got this passion that we can share with our children and spend that time with them,
Yeah.
but also introduce them to the community that we're part of, because it must be great. You know, it was brilliant when we came down to Great Yarmouth, and
Yeah, it was a fun day, man.
Zia and Evie hung out, and when you've done other stuff with Olive D and Tommy
Yeah.
T's kids,
Yeah, that's right.
and it's just brilliant bringing these little communities together.
Yeah, I feel like, there's more to the whole 45 kids thing, really. It could be, I don't want to force it,
No,
but
we don't need to force it.
no, but I feel like there's something there to try and get these kids sort of out and about and DJing at little festivals and stuff, because I know Eve and Zia absolutely loved that day at
Yeah.
Great Yarmouth. They both came out. You could see them buzzing. Do you know what I mean?
That was so much fun.
Yeah. And so and the same with when we did the our little Lanes Day in Norwich as well. It was
Yeah.
cool. People walking past and sort of getting into the vibe, and the kids were really enjoying it. So it's definitely a thing.
It's like we're saying earlier. We don't want to force them into doing it, and at the end of the day, it's just a little bit at a time, I think.
Cool.
So hence I've got the weekend. I think you can't make it, unfortunately, this time round, but we'll definitely do it again, I think, coming up at the end of July. And we've got ZZ, and then we've got Paul Sorts coming down with Polyphonics, and then hopefully Lee Funky Flavors might come down with DJ Olive D. So if that happens, there'll be like 3 girls DJing, representing music and representing 45s. I mean, that's going to be crazy when that happens.
Yeah, it's good. It's great that you're providing that as well, in trying to push and provide for that platform. I think it's a great thing. But do you feel like there's a problem with trying to find music that ZZ's into on 45, as opposed to just buying old music all the time? Like, actually trying to find new things that they're
I mean, she's got a little bit of new stuff, not much. Interestingly,
that's the problem that I'm finding with Eve. Is like Eve's like, well, this is all like music from this. It's your old music,
Oh, I'm not getting that. I think that she does like some new stuff, like the what they called Four Town from that film Red.
Okay.
Disney. There's a 45 of that, and then she loves Billie Eilish. And when we were at Glastonbury, Sam said, "Oh, there's a Billie Eilish box set." I was like, "Is there? Whoa!" And then literally the day after I got back from Glastonbury, I was walked into a record shop in Brighton, and they had a small little box of 45s, and it was their Billie Eilish box set. I was like, "I've got to buy that,"
Sure.
So she plays some of that stuff, but yeah, she's quite into her jungle, which is interesting. We go to Rare Kind, she goes upstairs, and that's where the sort of drum and bass jungle room is. And so I'm digging for 45s downstairs, and then she just says, right, this is one I want to buy. So she's going to play them, I think, on the parent and kids stream we're doing on Sunday.
Nice.
So, but they're like, there's a 10-inch and 2 12-inch. So
okay.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm still waiting for Eve to really find that kind of avenue that she wants to go down with it. So we'll just wait and see. And like I say, I'm not forcing it. I'm just kind of letting her find her way with it, really. Yeah, rather than playing, blame it on the boogie or or Earth, Wind and Fire every time. So actually find something that she's properly into. So yeah,
and I think that will come. I think what we're instilling in them is this passion and this love for music, and also the fact that through music you can spread love and joy and whatever to other people. That's what we're instilling in them, and that's what they're seeing, and that's what they've seen. But the interesting thing with the last festival we did, Z played on Elderflower, and I don't know, it was cool, but something wasn't right. I don't know whether it's her, me, or whatever. But then she came home and she was like, you know what? I quite like live streaming. And I was like, oh, okay. Why is that? And she was like, I like to talk on the mic, because obviously she got on the stage and she was like, "Is there a microphone?" I said, "Oh yeah, there you go." But you know, I was like, try not to say too much because obviously people. But then my other half is thinking maybe I should just let her say stuff and be herself and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, you know, she's very confident. Your girl, and
Yeah.
and I think that's a great thing. And you know, if she runs with that on stage, it could be like a proper, you know,
Yeah, I've got a big idea. It's just persuading a few people. I think we can do stuff because a lot of the older music that she comes back with. So, for example, like Huey Lewis and the News, Hip to Be
okay,
Square. She came back from a dance class, musical theatre that they do, and she was singing it. I was like, "Oh, I know that song. I used to love it," and so I got it for her. So there's already dancers and Ghostbusters. Obviously, all the 45 kids play Ghostbusters.
yeah,
They do a little dance to that as well.
okay,
So it's building these tunes to then have kids dancing while the kids DJing.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean
yeah,
that would look cool, you know.
yeah, definitely, yeah, absolutely,
But we'll see. But
yeah.
anyway, we transgressed a little bit. You were going
Uh-huh.
to talk to me about the second album that you were on.
Uh, yeah. So this comes out on the 7th of July. This is MC Oliver Twist, his album Bomberman, um, and I am on the title track, which is produced by Frankie Raw from Germany. Big up Frankie Raw,
Yeah.
and has got DJ Random from the Steel Devils on the cuts, and also Prince Poetry from Organized Confusion, which is like I'm in proper fanboy mode with that because you know it's
Oh.
mine. So yeah, it's funny as well when Oliver Twist messaged me. He said, "Oh yeah, can you up for featuring on a track?" I was like, "Yeah, cool. Send the beat over." He sent me the beat. It's like dope beat. Wrote the verse, recorded it, sent it back to him. He was like, "Oh, wicked, yeah, that's great." And then literally a week later, he came back and went, "Oh, by the way, there's another featured rapper on it." And I was like, "Oh yeah, who's that?" Just not really expecting it to be anyone I knew maybe, or just another UK MC. And he's like, "Oh yes, Prince Poetry from Organised Confusion." I was like, "What?" Like, you know, I was sort of like telling the 16-year-old me, "You're going to do a track with this guy, so you know, at some point in your life." It's just, yeah, absolutely crazy that I've got to
That's an
feature.
insane journey, isn't it? And
Yeah.
it's what I love about music because it just takes you in these really different directions, doesn't it?
Yeah, like you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the track that I did with Andy Cooper a few
Yeah.
years back called
Yeah, yeah.
Shockwave, you know, that again is a complete. It's a weird one for me because even though, um, you know, I arranged the whole thing and kind of like messaged him and sorted the track out, I produced it and sent it over. He immediately came back with his verse. It's like I've been following his music since that first Ugly Duckling EP dropped. I remember buying it
Yeah.
in the shop the day it came out, and I've been a massive fan of him ever since. So for that to go all full circle and be like, "Shit, I'm on a track with this dude," and he's
Yeah.
like, he's a hero to me. Do you know what I mean?
He's
It's bizarre. It's really weird.
there's something about him though, isn't there? Because I'm a huge fan of Ugly Duckling, and I had been to him, I don't know, probably maybe four times live.
Yeah,
Absolutely killed it. Right at the front, always like taking photos and stuff. But it's amazing that he's still around and still smashing it. Obviously now he's
very
with the
relevant.
allergies. You
Yeah.
know,
Absolutely. And
I
the
mean that's
dude,
another sort of sort of collaboration made out of heaven, isn't it? You know, putting them together.
yeah, they work, you know, hand in hand. They're so you know, everything that they do beat wise, he just gels straight onto it. And
Yeah,
you know, I think that's the magic of what Andy Cooper can do, though, isn't it? He's got the Midas touch with like he can just write to anything almost, and sort of you know slots right in.
and he's so prolific as well, isn't it? You know,
Very
because
skillful.
there's so many releases that he's on, you know,
Yeah, consistent. Yeah,
and it just and they're all good. You know,
yeah.
he's a
But
legend.
yeah, but I mean, you know, to have this track anyway with Prince Poetry was just a massive moment for me, and But the album itself is an absolute win. It's on Beeline Recordings.
Yeah.
Number 36 on the label as well. So 36 records Beeline's put out now, Specific and the crew.
That's
but
amazing.
yeah, this album's a winner. 3 tracks by Jar One. Who else is on it? There's a massive lineup actually. DJ Pandemonium, Panda's on it. Jabba the Cut. Yeah, loads of people. Amazing.
But again, it's amazing that, like you were saying, oh, you know, it's great. I thought it'd be on with this person, and then suddenly it's like, wow, that's amazing that you're on there. It's bringing lots of people together, and that's where I think hip hop is different to a lot of other genres. Again, I might be completely wrong, but I don't know.
You're right, especially more in the modern day, I suppose. But yeah, it's definitely
it brings obviously the
collaboration.
producers, the you know, MCs. It brings, you know, the scratchers, you know, all together to create a bigger thing. Now, I don't know. Does that happen in the drum and bass community? Does that happen in?
It does, but then drum and bass isn't necessarily an album genre, is it? It's more of a singles market.
It's interesting how it's become that, isn't it? Because, you know, if you go back to Goldie Timeless, that really is
even back then it was rare that you'd get an artist that was really going to doing albums. It was more kind of like, yes, Goldie albums legendary, and obviously like there's artists like Ronnie Size, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know, Danny Breaks might have had an album out and so on, but it was mainly like a singles market where hip hop was definitely an album thing, right? But you know, I mean, the albums that I've put out, my last one, there was about 8 featured MCs on it and guest producers, and the same with the Chrome and Inspired album, and with our earlier albums of Deftex and things like that. It was always like we'd have guest rappers on it, guest producers, and so on. But actually, my next album that comes out on AE Productions, the Chrome Plus album, has only got one track with featured artists on it. So the rest is just all us. The only voice you hear on it is mine, which is the first time.
I guess again that is a collaboration. This is the band, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess it is a collaboration, isn't it? Again, you're all coming together.
True, but we're as one act. Do you know what I mean? So there's no outside kind of featured producers. Oh, actually, sorry, saying that. So Mr. Fantastic co-produces one track.
Right.
That's it. And other than that, there's one track which is a DJ track which features Mr. Wonderful and Technical J, who are both like Technical J came 5th in the DMC recently, and Mr. Wonderful was like 4th in the IDAs and stuff like that. But that's it. So it was quite an interesting process for me as a rapper, because I'm more just on the rapping side with this album rather than the production, even though I do get involved a little bit. So it's mainly, you know, from my point of view, actually just going, right, I've just actually got to make a whole album of just tracks with me rapping on it, which I've never done before. So that was an interesting process. So yeah, that should be coming out later this year anyway.
But do you find, in terms of, for me, you know, it's great having a project or having like organizing a raid train or organizing an event. Does it work like that for you when you're trying to put together a track or put together an album? Do you think, right, that's that project, this is what I'm trying to achieve, and then go away and do it?
I wish I was like, you know, more business minded and more kind of organized with my
well, you got kids, you know, it's hard.
It's just kind of like, what am I gonna I wake up in the morning and think, right, what am I gonna work on today? Yesterday I made an edit of Mr. Vegas Heads High.
Oh, nice.
But
I like that song.
I did it in the start with the beat of basically Nas Made You Look, but I've just made that beat myself. So I slowed down Apache.
Nice.
Boom, 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 and just back into that loop like you hear on Made You Look. So, you know, I woke up yesterday and thought, I'm just going to make an edit, but tomorrow I'll maybe make, you know, a straight up hip hop tune, and try and there's never really an order to anything. A lot of people say they like to write raps to a beat,
right?
But I'll write raps first, just with nothing at all, with no BPM in mind almost sometimes, and then try and fit it round a beat.
Okay. And what is your process? So when you're writing raps, is it still pen and paper? Have you still got
Not
a
anymore,
notebook?
no. I'm pretty much on my phone.
Typing, or are you using like dictation and like voice notes?
Yeah, typing. So just, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Do you think, obviously, because the size of a phone's about that big,
mm,
do you think that sort of constricts you and makes you use? I might get getting a little bit deep now. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Do you
maybe.
think because you've only got that sort of amount of characters that affects how you write?
Not necessarily. I think I normally have, I'll have syllables in my head of how many syllables I can fit within a bar, and because I have a certain style of writing that I do, it hasn't really changed much from when I wrote pen to paper
Okay.
and when I've transferred over to using the phone. It's funny, I did a track called "Put It on Paper" quite a few years ago on Beeline, which is all about me boasting about how I still use my pen and I write on paper, and it's like out the window now. I'm just strictly on my phone. But I don't know what I'd do if I lost this phone and I couldn't get back into my notes account. I'd lose all my all my rhymes.
You
But
need to send those notes to your desktop if you've got one, or
yeah,
your
I
MacBook.
think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they're in the cloud. I've got like a cloud account and stuff. So I think
Yeah,
they're.
yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting thing. I don't use pen and pad anymore. I know when I've been to festivals with Ill Inspired, my rhyming partner, and it'll be like we're back at the tent at night, and he'll pull out his pad, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I've just I wrote this the other night," and I'll be like, "I've got my phone out," you know, sort of
Yeah.
like half cut, trying to read like blurred lines off a phone and stuff, and it's just it's funny.
Oh, hold on. So when you're doing live stuff, do you then turn those notes into a song that you then use on your phone?
No. I mean, this is just what you mean when we're at a festival.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
no,
when
no.
you're just chucking stuff back and forth at a
Yeah,
festival.
just
Yeah.
just messing about like back at
Yeah.
the tent, kind of like, oh, check this out. I just wrote this the other night, or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Cool. Cool. Talking of festivals, then,
yeah,
have you got some coming up? Obviously, we started festival season.
yeah. So we just did one a few weeks back called Bearded Theory in Derbyshire, which was, I think it's in Derbyshire. It was near Tamworth, out that way. Um, it was really good. It's a good laugh. We did our set, went down well. Um, we are next at Latitude Festival, which is around our neck of the woods or in Suffolk. We're doing MC workshops, DJ workshops, and DJ sets. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
And that's just kids or adults as well? For the workshops.
For the workshops, it's for I think the age limit is 16, so like below 16-year-olds.
And how much can you teach them in a workshop? How long are the workshops?
The rap workshop runs for about an hour on each day, so it's a very short amount of time, and it's literally just like, let's see what you can get out. We try and do an 8 bar. If we can get eight
Right.
bars out of them, we normally start with like some template kind of lines. You know, my name is Mike, and I'm on the mic, and
Yeah.
just really bog standard basic
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
just to try and sort of give them something to use. And some kids use the template, some kids don't. Some kids actually come back at you and actually battle you and embarrass you in front of all the rest of the people there.
I mean, I bet that must be cool when you get a kid who is obviously quite
Up for it.
up for it or got a bit of talent for it.
Yeah,
And what
yeah.
about the DJ workshops, and what do you do with those?
The DJ workshop, again, it's quite a taster thing. So we run it in kind of like sets of 2 kids, um, and they get like 20 minutes maybe. And it's
Right.
just the idea of like blending one track to another. So basic understanding of we use like CDJs or controller, so
Right.
it's not turntables,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
it's just the idea of understanding the basics of a mixer. So
Yep.
understanding EQs, ups and downs, faders, and then you know figuring out like BPMs and how to beat match just the bare basics. Sometimes though, if you get, because we've been doing these workshops at Latitude for quite a while now, and what we notice is the kids come back on each day, and by the third
Okay.
day, some of them are kind of like really into it and they've got the idea. So we start sort of maybe introducing scratching and like showing them how to do a bit of cutting and stuff.
That must be amazing, though,
Oh, it's really good fun.
to see that you've put a great access to DJing from such a young age.
Yeah. And like I say, some of the kids. In fact, one of the kids I remember came back a year later. So
Yeah.
it's like he'd come back with his family and he's like, "Oh, you remember me? I came and did this." I was like, "Oh, wicked! Yeah, come on in."
Wow.
And he was totally into it. So he came back and he was actually like mixing away properly. And it's like he went back and he got himself like you can get the app on an iPad.
Yeah, like DJ or something.
DJ app. So he had the algorithm app. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's using that and he's got that on his iPad. So he has like the basic idea of how to use, the cue points and like his hot cues and stuff. It's like wicked. You've totally
Brilliant.
got what we told you to do. Yeah. So yeah, it's a nice feeling when you know that they've actually latched onto it, and yeah.
Well, it's because most DJs, musicians are artists, and most of us love what we do, and so it's just sort of saying to someone of the younger generation, you know what, you don't have to go out necessarily and just pursue this sort of, I think as Acerone was saying, this financial thing. Why is it not successful just to entertain people and make people happy through music, through rapping, through graffiti, through whatever? Surely it's a good thing.
I mean, I think I'm very similar age to Acer, and what he was saying about the whole thing of like, we didn't have anything back in those days. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, his story of having the belt drive turntable and then having to find a deck. It really resonates with me because I did exactly the same thing. I had my mum's old hi-fi set, stereo setup with a dodgy little mixer. It wasn't quite a made to fade. It wasn't as bad as Ace's, but it was a realistic one, but still really bad. And we just made do with what we had and actually loved spending that time and being creative with what we had. And I mean, going back to the 45 kids thing, I hope that this becomes a thing for my daughter, for Eve, and for Martha, maybe my youngest as well, that they do get into it, because it's like, it can be quite beneficial. Do you know what I mean? Spending that time learning that art. And
well, I think the way this is going to work, we've sort of talked a little bit about 45 kids. The festival I'm putting on it's not a festival; it's just a gathering. Bring together friends of mine, bring together some DJs, bring together people that we know. And what I'd quite like to do is put on something that brings in the creative. So, for example, you're there. I know you can't do this year, but you're there, say next year, and you're doing a little hip hop workshop. You're also doing a little DJ workshop. We're going to do a little DJ workshop at our R1, but that would just be me and Zia, basically showing kids how to put the record on, and something really simple. But then have someone like Acerone there as well, teaching graffiti. Have someone who can teach singing.
I've got a dude, if you're interested. He's a killer beatbox workshops.
There you go.
He's at Glastonbury at the minute. Actually, he's doing one there, but he does it at Latitude each year. Has about 50 kids all on the go, like doing beatbox. So just doing stuff like that, so you can actually have different elements.
Yeah. So it's like you're going to rather than going to a festival to see other acts or whatever, you're bringing your kids to something where they're going to learn something. And learn to collaborate. I had I don't know. Do you know Les the DJ? I don't know, you may do. She's on Twitch, but she runs a camp where I think for a week, where girls or teenage girls go, and they basically teach them how to be a band for the week. They teach them instruments, they teach them like production, they teach them to come up with a name, and basically just perform a song. And it's maybe that's something we can do with this. We get together a group of kids, we teach them a little bit of beatboxing, a little bit of rap, a little bit of DJing, and then just say, there you go, perform something.
Absolutely. I mean, that's pretty much what we try to do at Latitude, is like by the end of the session is like try and have a a piece, you know, you can perform it. So yeah, absolutely that. You know, I think that's a great idea.
Because that's then something we can then take potentially to other people and say,
Absolutely.
right, this is our community, you know, whoever it
Yeah.
is. And then again, it works because obviously if we do different ones around the country, different people in different places can be running the same thing. Basically, once we build the model,
Yeah.
you know, you just find the right people in each of these sort of communities, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is definitely, you know, it can be taught anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, we all speak the same language. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it's easily taught. Yeah. Let's discuss that further
We should, yeah.
later. Yeah.
We should. So obviously that's latitude.
Yeah.
Have you got anything
Yeah.
else after that?
We have got
You're doing the
there
Norwich
is
Lanes again, aren't you? Or the
we're
Great
doing the
Yarmouth?
Norwich. Yeah, we're doing the Norwich Lanes thing. We've also got a hip hop barbecue all day in Norwich on the rooftop at Gonzo's. There's a wicked venue in Norwich called Gonzo's. Sort of open air rooftop, and we've got Michael Parkinson and DJ Jazz T coming.
Wow. Wow.
So Michael Parkinson is celebrating 10 years of his album Me, Myself, and Akai.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, so that's for that. But we've
What's
got
that
like
date? Is that
huh?
the 8th of July one?
No, this is in
No.
August, the 6th, I think. I think it's a Sunday.
Yeah,
But it's
I'm in Edinburgh actually with Scott. Yeah.
nice.
Okay. Next
And
time.
then after that, I'm going to go to We Out Here, but just as a punter. But my
Right.
first time at a festival as a punter in like 10 years or something stupid since my stag do. So I can't wait for that. No responsibilities. Just go and like enjoy and you know.
Coco's playing at that, isn't he?
He is, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you need to
Jazz
check him out.
Jeff,
I think Mr. Thing, I think as well.
Thing and Shorty Blitz, yeah,
So,
Jazz Jeff.
yeah.
You know,
I'm
it's amazing.
I'm going over to Brighton tomorrow. Mr. Bongo have got an event going on.
Oh yeah, Mr. Thing and
Yeah,
Hugh and
yeah.
Cam in it, and Ewan's playing as well.
Ewan's playing, yeah. So yeah, I'm going to go over to Brighton tomorrow.
That looks
Meet up
that
with a
looks nice.
couple of people. So yeah, that should be good. I mean, Thing always smashes it.
Oh,
You know,
Mark's amazing.
he
Yeah,
was insane at Coco's gig. You know,
yeah.
it's yeah,
Oh, he always kills it.
he does.
He's literally, I think he's my favorite DJ. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. He's
Yeah,
awesome. He's awesome. But they're all my favorites in different ways. You know, like
yeah,
I love Jim Sharp, but in a different way to how I love Mr. Thing and Coco. It's I love that we're able to access all of these DJs
yeah.
and see them, quite regularly now. Because obviously you're now going to be coming back doing some more live streaming as well, aren't you?
I'm finally, I've got my setup back on the go, but I've had to nick my daughter's playroom. I'm sort of taking over my daughter's playroom.
Have you taken that over and have they moved upstairs? Have they
You
moved
want
upstairs to the attic room now?
I was, yeah. So I was up in the loft,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I've had a change of computers and stuff, and
Yeah.
Macs crashing and blah de blah. So I've got a new
Yeah.
setup, and because of my new setup, it doesn't have Ethernet cable on it.
Yeah.
So and the Wi-Fi doesn't reach like all the way to the top of the house, so I'd need to get a booster and stuff. So I thought, you know what, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna set up in the playroom. So I'm downstairs, surrounded by board games and like beanie boos and
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff. But yeah, so I'm ready to go. I think you gave me a date for a show.
We've got 45 Funksters
That's the
you're
one.
on, which is the first Monday of June. I can't remember the date. Maybe
July, yeah.
July, sorry, maybe the
Yeah. So that's
3rd of July, I think.
gonna be my first one back. I think I'm gonna do like a test run before that.
Yeah, do one. And then the week after we've got 45 Dubs as well. So
Cool. Yeah.
which
So
is
I look forward to that.
45 Dubs, yeah. I mean, to be honest, both shows are amazing. I mean, I can't believe I think we're going to be on show 29 of 45 Funksters.
Nice.
And yeah, it's just great having these brilliant guests. And the same with the Dub show. It's nice having a little crew who check in not just for the Dub thing, but specifically for the Dub show.
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, we need to work on sort of putting together little shows, like having like because obviously reggae goes really well with hip hop, hip hop goes really well with funk.
Yep.
So it's almost like putting together a little raid train. Maybe do that, like an hour of reggae, an hour of hip hop, an hour of funk,
Mm.
and then just find DJs to do those 3.
Yeah, like a little triangle of.
Well, 3 is the magic number. Maybe
Yeah.
we can use that.
Absolutely, the Illuminati.
Yeah, we could do. But yeah, I think obviously if you're gonna come back into streaming, I think it's important to do it right. Really, get on raid trains. I think
Well, this seems to be the way. I mean, it seems like I mean, Sam was saying something about it on a thread recently. Sam Tweaks, and he was saying, raids really helped him.
Yeah.
And I mean, I only did a few when I was doing it back in a few years back. I was mainly just trying to do my weekly show, but I just couldn't keep consistent with it, and it's hard to get the numbers that way, right? Whereas the raids, it
Well,
seems like,
at the end of the day, if you're going to do a regular show, you have to do it consistently for a long period of time,
in order
and you have to
really
be
build
doing
that
it
following,
really. I mean, I've got to 2K, which I'm happy with, and we'll see where we go from here. But I don't have the capacity to sort of DJ for like 3 hours, because they say that's the sort of optimal. It's like in that 3rd and 4th hour that people have sort of found you in your community.
Right, got you.
Because obviously, if you think about it, if you're only on for 1 hour, your community have only got that 1 hour to find you. If you're on for 4 hours, there's 4 times as much chance of them finding you.
Yeah.
So unless you can commit to that, yes, doing your own little show is very difficult.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, I started in the Facebook Live days of this whole streaming thing, and there weren't a mass amount of DJ shows happening at that point. There was only a few here and there, and because I had it every Wednesday,
Yeah.
8 o'clock till 10 and beyond sometimes. So I was doing, like you're saying, about 2-3 hour shows, but it did get that massive following at times where you'd just get. It'd be like 1,000 people listening at one point. It'd be like, where have all these people come from? It's nuts.
Yeah.
And loads of people from America and around the world and so on. And then of course the whole Facebook Live thing became like the legalities came into it. And
Oh,
they kept
it was so annoying.
It was like, they were just like, bang, no, you're not having
20
it.
minutes cut off. And you'd be
Yeah,
like,
done.
Start
So
again.
that was it. I was finished really at that point. So we all went to Twitch, right? And
and it's interesting. It's interesting. Well, I mean, I went from Facebook Live for this group called Through Music We Live On. I think I was not quite, but probably certainly the only 45s DJ. I was probably the 2 or 3 final DJs, and we used to do on Facebook, and it'd be like 20 minutes, cut you off. Oh god! Then they went to Mixcloud, and it was all right, but Mixcloud was just a bit weird in terms of live streaming. You couldn't. I know it's not about numbers, but you couldn't see how many people were watching. You couldn't see.
Tricky. I agree.
Or whatever. I don't know what it is that's different to the community here, because obviously you've got the chat. It just works better on Twitch for some reason.
It's a lot neater. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like Shoestring says, a 2-hour slot each week and get more peeps, subs, etc. if I do a pop-up 4-hour set. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's it depends what you're doing it for. That's the other thing. Are you doing it because you want to try and get something from it financially? That's very difficult. Are you doing it just to sort of get your exposure up? Again, that's a good thing. Or just have fun with it.
Well, I suppose all of those things really, all of the above. It's definitely. Mainly, I want to get back into it. What I found when I was doing the Facebook Lives weekly and it was consistent, my mixing got better, and because I was like, knowing which tunes were going with which, because I'm just flicking through the racks and just experimenting.
Yeah,
but I was figuring out like little sets that I could then go and play out.
Yeah,
I missed that. So
it's sort of that practice time. The time that you would have had previously, rather than just practicing at home, you practice in front of a live stream. And Sam said this quite a lot. The way he DJ'd and the skills he learned were all learned through Twitch. And practicing on Twitch. Before Twitch, he hadn't done a sort of beat juggle before. Doesn't really do much scratching, but obviously now, as he's learned more, it's sort of gone from there. So
yeah.
It's been amazing.
Feels good, man. Yeah.
Definitely. It's been great. Right. I'm going to have a look and see who's live, and we'll raid across. It's been great chatting to you. In the meantime, what have you got sort of coming up immediately? Have you got any gigs this week or this weekend?
Sorry to fly in front of them. So tomorrow night I'm in Norwich at a place called the Lamb Inn. One of my residencies, 7 to 11, playing funk, soul, hip hop.
Yeah.
And more. And then Saturday night, I'm doing a private party in a place called Chrome up on the beach. That'll be a little bit more.
Oh, Chrome. I've been to Chrome.
Yeah, so we're going up to Chrome, private party, a little bit more middle of the road, but you know, it's a birthday party, so you know, got to keep the crowd happy and all that. So that'll be fun.
Hard work.
Yeah, it can be. But yeah, I mean, DJing's my job. That's all I do now. So
Yeah, definitely.
So every week I'm having to play. I'll get some decent gigs, which I'm happy with, and then I get some not so decent gigs, which are kind of like they pay the rent.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
It's good that music allows you to do that, and that you've got that option to do it, and it will build. It definitely will build. We are going to go and raid across to. We talked about him earlier on, DJ Mr. Thing. He's doing his Thing Thursday, so we're going to go and join his crew and community. Thank you so much, Mike. It's been a pleasure. We'll have a quick chat afterwards in a minute. But also thanks to Acerone. This has been another great show. Thank you everyone for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun. Hopefully you've got something from it.
Go buy the record. Go buy the record.
Definitely buy it. It's a top record. It's a top record.
Comes out on Juno next week.
Yeah. And in the meantime, we're going to go and see Mr. Thing. So
peace.
Take it easy.